guys remember about the sequence file format? We have discussed how the sequence file will be looks like. Do you guys remember how the sequence file looks like? We have seen how the sequence file will be. The sequence file will be in the form of key value pair. Let me show you guys that how the sequence file will be. If you go through the code, input formats, if you see a sequence file input format, look at here. Before that, we should understand how the sequence file will look, right? So let's look at about the sequence file. So any doubts from the key value pair input format? Any doubts from the key value pair input format? Any doubts?
So one quick question on
Yeah,
this
go
key
ahead.
value. Suppose if we have three fields, suppose tab delimiter or something, like it's not expected format or something record, right? So it will just ignore the third part, or how it works?
Could you please repeat your question? If it is not,
In the really a key value pair, suppose if it contains the tab delimiter with three columns of data
okay.
in the file,
Mm-hmm.
suppose some unexpected or something due to some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it will ignore the third part, or it will fail completely with the logic or something.
No, no, no. So what you have to do, the first wherever the first tab separated will come, first tab separated, before the first tab it is a key, after the first tab whatever it comes everything is value.
So irrespective of the tab and everything, it will
Yes.
consider as one value.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to play around with the rest of the value. So what is your business going to you are going to do, that you have to handle with your value. First
Okay.
tab, it will consider the first tab, whatever it comes with the first tab. Before the first tab it is a key, after the first tab it is a value.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we should understand something about sequence file input format. If you guys remember, we have discussed about the sequence file input format sometime before in a HDFS. While dealing with the HDFS also we have discussed about it. Okay, anyway, I'm not going with the back. Let me show you here. So the sequence file looks such a way that it is a file format. It is dot sequence dot seq is a file format. It will be like a key value, key value. Do you guys remember we have discussed about this key and value, key value? So all your file looks like a key value pairs. All the whole file looks like a key value pairs. The key can be anything. The key can be anything, and value can be anything. Let's say here my key is a file name, and value is the content of the file. And sometimes your key can be null writable, and value can be anything. Value can be JSON objects, or value can be XML file, or value can be binary file, anything. Okay, the advantage of using the key value pair, you have a split mechanism, right? The splitting mechanism will properly splits with a value, it never splits like I'll split till here. No, your give a sequence file input format, he will try to take such a way that even though your block is coming here, no, the key is associated with some value, so you go and take the partition till here. So it is properly splits the input splits. If it splits the properly, the advantage is that you are not missing the value. The value will be associated with respect to key. The value will be associated with the respective key. And so see, here it can be a text or it can be something else. So according to your business, you have to process this value. According to the business, you have to process this value. Okay, so let's look at a simple example. And before showing you this, let me show you a simple sequence file how it looks. Oh, I think here it is not there. And let me show you from here. I'm going to show you my project source code where I have used for the sequence file. Okay, where we have used as a sequence file output format. The code which I'm going to show you is my real-time code. This is the map method. Before that, let me show you let me show see okay let me show you from the starting of this. It is a mapper class. Okay, let me show you a driver class. Let me show you a driver class. That was a map only job. Whatever I'm showing, it's a map only job. Okay, so yep, this is the one. You have a main method here. This is AWS because we are downloading data from the AWS. That way we can see later. Let me show you this. Yeah, let's look at here. What is the file format I'm setting? Sequence file input format. So if I'm taking the input format as a sequence file input format, so my job for the job I need to set it is a sequence file input format. And the thing, if we go and see in the mapper, if we go and see the mapper, I should specify what is my key, what is my value, right? So in this case, we are getting the key as a null writable. Why we have taken a null writable? Because we don't have anything to as a key. So we are not getting anything as a key. The value what we are getting is a map writable. Map write so we have discussed the only few data types, and the map writable is another data type where if you're getting a data in the form of key value pairs. Let's say we're getting the data in the JSON format. The JSON is nothing but a key value pair. If you guys observe clearly, the JSON data is nothing but a key value pair. So that kind of data we can represent using the map writable in Hadoop. So if you look at here, what we are doing, we are we are taking the value and we are value dot get. Actually, we are doing here. It is this get. Uh, we are getting the key and properties. So these are key value pair, right? So we are getting the key value pairs from the data. Okay, and some validations. So key should not, data should not be null, property should not be null, and these are something else. Okay, and we are converting our data into JSON from the JSON we're handling. So forget about this. So what I want to show you here, so if you are using a sequence file input format, you have to specify your file input format in the job, and you have to specify and what based on the key in the based on the key in your sequence file, you have to define that key. You have to define that key in your mapper. Look at here, set input format. What I'm setting, sequence file input format. If you go and see my mapper, My mapper I have taken as a key text and text, text and text. So because I have a key as a text and a value as a text. If you have a key as something else and if you have a value as something else, based on that you have to take your key and your map K1 V1. So I'm talking about K1 V1. So based on that your logic has to write. Understand guys? So if you want me to show you, let me, because yesterday I was, yeah, sequence record reader, sequence file input format. If you look at the sequence file input format, if you look at the sequence file input format, get formatted splits, sequence file record reader, because I need a sequence file record reader, right? So go with your sequence file record reader, your initialize method, and you will be reading your file and you will be taking the key value pair. But these are all, if it is a sequence file, it is pretty simple because the sequence file is already divided into key value pair. Okay, it's very easy to get here. The sequence file, to get our key and value, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. So they're taking the split file and configurations and path, and they're taking the path and sequence file reader. There is something called sequence file reader. Sequence file is the API from the Java. It is not Hadoop related. It is from the sequence file itself. Is there is some Java API. Okay, where you can have a sequence file writer, sequence file reader. There are some other APIs are available. You have a writer. Okay, you have a create writer, right? So using them, you can play with your sequence file. Look at here. So he is taking the reader and taking the path, your file system, and the path and configurations, and they're getting the length of the file because they want to get the end position, right? They're getting the end position here and the starting position, start position and end position, and they are started doing synchronizing here, and that is initialize method. You can see next method, key next method. They're getting the key into a key, value into value. Sequence file is also key value. Why do we have two type of key value and sequence file? Very good question, Anila. But here sequence file is, the data is not key value pair. The data is not key value pair. The structure of data is a key value pair here. Okay, in the normal key value file input format, in the normal key value file input format, the data is a key value pair. In the normal, I think I have removed it. I have closed it maybe. In your normal data itself a key value pair. If you take yesterday's example, in yesterday's example, the data itself is a key value pair. Okay, but here data is not key value pair. The structure of the data is a key value pair. Understand, Anila? Right? So here the problem is here this is a structure of the whole file. The whole file is the key value pair. Your key can be your file name or key can be empty and value can be something else, a collection of JSON values, or your value can be JSON objects, right? That's why we cannot go with the key value pair format because the sequence file is binary format. The sequence file is not a human readable format. The sequence file is a binary format which is not a human readable format, right? Do you guys understand the sequence file example? It's nothing but before you're executing your sequence file you should have a sequence file generator. I mean you should have a sequence file. You can download sequence file from anywhere or you can generate your sequence file. So here I am sharing some code which will generate the sequence file for you. if you take a normal file and give the normal file to this, and it will generate the sequence file for you. So once it is a sequence file is generated by using the sequence file, you can go ahead and um, you can go ahead and uh, make use of the sequence file, or you can download any sequence file and give as input to a sequence file. That will take care of it. Clear about the sequence file? Because I'm not going to execute this problem, so because I need to generate the sequence file, then I have to execute this, which will take time. It's a pretty simple, nothing changes here as I explained. So nothing, no code change will no code change here. The code change is as per your logic. So as per your requirement, you have to change the code. The only code change is you need to specify your job dot set input format class is the sequence file input format. Clear? Any doubts? I'm just moving with the next key value pair, next input format, which is the Nline input format. This is another important file input format. So this is another file input format. So let's discuss about it. Any doubt from sequence file?
Yeah, Veera, I have one doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you cannot read that file, if it is in binary format,
Mhm.
we can read that file with Java, but then how can we define logic?
Okay, very good question. So before your sequence file, we will be knowing that what is our data structure, right? Suppose who is giving you a sequence file, they will tell you my key is this, my value is this. They have to give you a metadata about the sequence file. Otherwise, you'll not understand what to process, right? Otherwise, you'll not know what will be your logic.
Okay.
Okay, as I shown in my previous example, here I'm getting the sequence file for my real time. We were getting the sequence file. So the sequence file, so the key is null. They have to define us. They have to tell us. Otherwise, we will not come to know. If it is not, if that is the case, what you can do, if you really want to look at what is the file is, you can go ahead and extract the file and you can look at the data by using some Java code. From the sequence file, you can generate a normal file. From the sequence file, you can generate it. But that you can do that. So by using Java, you can read that file. Otherwise, your client has to tell you, this is my key, this is my value. I think I have some examples of the sequence file here. Let me look at. Not sure. I think it's just quite long time. Where we have generated the sequence file and where we have let me show you Sulva matrix. Yeah, these are some sequence files, which is a binary format. If you see here, these are the binary files. These are the binary files. Okay, so the actual data is this. The actual data is this.
Okay.
So what we did, this is actual data. Okay, this is the JSON data. It is. You look at, this is the key and this is the value. This is the value. Till here it is a value. One JSON object. From here another key. Till here. From here is another key. So this is the actual data. So what we did, we have converted into sequence file. So by using sequence file generator, you can just need to give the path of this file and tell that how to read this file. And this is the properties of the sequence file. So this is different. This is for our understanding. So this is for our understanding. What we did, we just has given like a some information here. What is a body? What is a country? Make, model, year? Something we have did. Okay, this is for my use case. We need a property file. You don't need a property file. This is actual data. This is actual data as a sequence file. Clear? This is the value of your sequence file. This is the value of your sequence file. Your key is an null writable. Key is nothing. There won't be anything in the key. Whatever the file I have shown you, that is just a value file. That is just a value file. Okay. Go to next example. Nline input file format. Nline input file format. Let's look at my requirement is. Let me open some input files. Yep. Oh, it's a very big file it seems. Oh, it's very big file. Let's stop this. Otherwise it will break. Otherwise it will break everything. Okay. This is my input file. Let's assume that this is my input file. Now there is you have something called some requirement saying that you want to process specific number of lines with one mapper. See, as of now we have seen there is the different way to calculating the split. There is a different way to calculating our splits, correct? There is a different way to we have seen different way to calculating the split, input split. But when it go to file nline input format, how it is, let sorry guys, let me explain you how it will work. Let me explain you. Okay, so this works such a way. Let's assume that I have a file like this. I have a line number 1, line 2, and so on, line 1000. You have 1000 lines in this, and you want to process 10 lines for each mapper. You don't want to process 10 lines per mapper. It means how many mappers will launch for 1000 lines? 100 mappers will launch. Let's say 100 mappers will launch for the 1000 lines. So now your file you want to process with a number of lines wise. 10 lines or 100 lines or 200 lines or 1000 lines. You want to process those many number of lines by single mapper. It means here your input split is based on the number of lines. Your input split is based on the number of lines. Look at guys here. Let me close these things. If you go here, there is something called nline input format. Nline input format. So why I'm showing everything in the source code, because you guys need to understand, okay, it should not be like a magic. I should not explain only theory part. So I want to show you some proof. There is something, it is happening like this only. That's why I'm showing you a source code. Yeah, know that you may not get in the source code to get to see the source code. There are some jar and eclipse tools are there, but I tried with them, they are not working properly. Then what I have done, I have created a maven project. Through maven project I am able to decompile, because the maven project will by default it will generate the class files. From the class files we can view them. So I am doing it through maven project. Okay, there is something called, this is also file input format. As I told you, this also extended the file input format. And after explaining lines per a map, lines per map means how many lines you want for one mapper, how many lines you want for one mapper. This property you can set it in, you can set it in your property file, your Mapreduce, Mapreduce hyphen site default XML file, your Mapreduce default XML file, or you can set in your job also. See here, Mapreduce input format dot line per map. When using Nline input format, the number of lines for the input data to include the each split. It means if you can specify here number of mappers, number of lines per your job in this property. How to specify? Copy this, copy this, go to your Mapreduce site.xml, put it here, and specify how many number of lines you want to process, 100 or 10 or 20, whatever the number you want to process. You need to specify here. Okay, this is one way. Now other way is, okay, let me finish this. Other way I'll show you. Okay, you can set in a driver class itself. So record reader, you are going with a line record reader because anyway it's a lines only, the text file only. So if you go on line record reader, you know that your text will be offset. Your K1 will be offset and your V1 will be line. Remaining everything is same, guys. So nothing changes here. Now let me close this thing. Remaining,
So we,
yeah,
so this number of lines will decide the number of splits then in this case.
yes. Suppose if you have 100 lines, if you specify 10 lines, it means the 10 splits will be calculated. 10 splits will be calculated. So number of lines is nothing but those many lines for your one split. Those many lines for your one split. Understand?
Yes, we
Madhu?
do.
Yeah. So let me show you example for it because I have opened this class file, right? So that's why it will be showing like this. First, let me minimize this. Let me go to our Nline input format. You can look at here. You can specify like this. You can specify like this. Your job dot nline input format dot set number of lines per split and the job name comma number of lines, job name comma number of lines. This is the one way. Or you can also set you can also set you can also set because before sending your job on, we have to set so that's why I'm going to set here conf dot of set of. If you remember the configuration what we have taken there, the line number, you have to take care of your what to say, your configuration. So let me open that. This map it is input line number. Either you can copy this configuration or you can go with this configuration. Both are similar, it seems. Copy. You can set it like this also. Set string. This is the one. A number of lines you can give 20 or 10, whatever this. Why it is telling. is the type configuration is not applicable to argument string and int. Okay, it's expecting string and string, so I think I need to select the different method. Okay, whatever it is. So I'm just want to show you how to set the configuration. So you have to take a respective method from the conf. You have to take one is the string and other one is the setint. I think setint is there. Yep, this is the one you need to take, where you need to set this value and where you need to set this. No problem, no error, right? So you have to select a respective uh, method from the configuration object. Okay, so then you have to return this object. If you return this object, whoever is getting this object, like here I'm getting here getConf, this getConf will return this object along with these properties. Okay, okay, that has been said. So remaining code, everything is same, nothing changes in your mapper and reducer, nothing changes. You can just go with your whatever the logic you write. Your k1 is a long writable and value is the text, so you can go with the. So here I'm not doing any business logic, I'm just taking the lines and I'm just emitting the whatever I'm getting, I'm just emitting them, nothing else. So here what will happen, how many mappers you have, how many lines you have. Let's say you have 100 lines and the number of lines are 20 as per this example. So 5 mappers will be launched. 5 mappers will be launched, and if you have a reducer will work. I don't have a reducer here to make sure that I'm getting those many splits are coming. So to make sure that whether those let's say number of lines are 100 and I have specified 20. So if I specify 20, I should get 5 mapper output files. To check that, I have used only a mapper. I didn't use the reducer. I have taken the key and value, I just emitting the key and value. I'm not doing anything else here, nothing much business logic. To make sure that I'm getting the number of splits, how will you understand how many mappers are launched? You will not understand if you have a reducer. So if you have a reducer, what will happen? So all the output will be going to single reducer. So I have made it as a number of reduced tasks are 0 to see that actually the number of input format is working fine or not. So I have checked checked with it. You can also take 10 lines, go with the number of lines are 2 and execute this program. It will generate 5 mapper output files. It will generate 5 mapper output files. Clear about the Nline file input format? Anila, Madhu, Nagi, Srikanth, Srini, Sulba, Sunil, Akash. Please guys, please, if you respond to me, I can go next input format.
Understood.
Yeah. Go.
Yeah, understood the concept, but yeah, just I'm trying to understand in the real-time use cases where it would be the ideal situation to use this kind of.
That's what I'm trying to say, Madhu. We are not going to use all the input formats in a single project see, your Mapreduce framework is giving you a flexibility. Whatever the input format you want to use, you can go ahead and use. Suppose you are finding some use case, I want to process, I don't want to go with the normal split mechanism. So I want to process this many lines has to be single mapper, this many lines has to be other mapper. So if you have that kind of requirement, yes, this is the best suitable. You do, so what Mapreduce is telling, you don't need to write your own input format for that specific that scenario. You can use the existing one. That's the only thing. Okay, so you have so many input file formats. That's what I'm trying to say. There are so many input file formats. So if you are any of your use cases fall under this kind of input file formats, yes, you obviously go ahead and use this input formats. Else, if it's anything is coming beyond these input formats, you go ahead and write your own input file format. Understand, Madhu?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, the next one is, I hope everyone is clear about the line input format. It's pretty simple. So how many lines you want, you have to specify. And yeah, coming to combine input format, combine and hold, I'll explain now itself. Combine and whole I'll explain. Let's talk about the input. Okay, anyway, I'll just go with the sequence. And the next one is the DB. Let me go with the combine. So I would like to show you one thing here. If you see combine file input format class, when we will go with the combine file input format class, when we will go with it, any idea? We already discussed. I already explained you sometime before in the small file problem. If you guys remember something called small file problem, I have explained there what is my small file problem, how to solve the small file problem. If you guys remember in HDFS, we have talked about this combined file input format that time itself. Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about it again, not a problem. So the combined file input format, I will use the combined file input format when I have a more number of small files in my HDFS. More number of small files in HDFS. If we have a more number of small files in HDFS, what will happen? Anyone can explain me? If we have a more number of small files in HDFS, what will happen?
As
Multiple mapper will get.
Sorry guys.
as there will be small files,
Mhm.
that memory utilization will not be right. So creating one large file and processing that file is the best idea
Okay,
to
good.
memory.
That's with respect to loading the data with respect to HDFS. So what with respect to process? What with respect to process? Let's look at here. I'm going to explain the small example. And all this, whatever I'm explaining, guys, everything is uh, prepared a document. The documents are there in the drive. Okay. So if you have a small file problem, let's say I have a file 1 is a 1 MB, file 2 is another 1 MB, file 3 1 MB, and file 4 is 1 MB. So this to process the file 1, I need one mapper. Yes or no? To process file 2, I need another one mapper, separate mapper. Even though it is 1 MB or 2 MB doesn't matter, but I need one mapper. I need to make use of my resource. I need to allocate my resource for this. Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? It will, because it will emit the one block. It will small file will take one block. So that block has to be processed by one mapper because this is a separate file. If it is a single file of all 4 MBs in single file, it could have been processed by single mapper. Instead of that, this 4 MB, 4 different files has to be processed by the 4 different mappers where you are wasting your resource. Yes or no? So I don't want to launch 4 different mappers to process this data because I'm resource crunch. I'm facing the resource problem. I don't want to process for each MB. I don't want to launch a separate JVM to process it. I want to process all these 4 files into single mapper. I want to process all these 4 files into single mapper. How it is possible? How can we do that? You can do that from the small files. You can generate a sequence file. By using the small files, you can generate a sequence file. You can go ahead and launch your mapper. I mean, you have to give a sequence file as input format, which will process by single mapper. Problem solution 1. Solution 2. Solution 2. Compress this files using different kind of compression techniques, not the Hadoop archive. Not the Hadoop archive. Don't go with the Hadoop archive. If you go with the Hadoop archive, still it will launch four mappers. Still it will launch four mappers. Hadoop archive. So your Mapreduce is not aware of Hadoop archive. Okay. There are some compressions are like LZO, bzip, gzip2, snappy. There are different kind of compression techniques are there. Using those compressions, in all the compressions are not processed by multiple single mapper. There are some compressions will map processed by multiple mappers. I'll explain that detailedly when we're talking about the compressions. So you can go with the compression techniques. You can compress all the files into a single file. Go ahead and process with a single file, a single mapper. There are different ways of solving this problem. One is sequence file. Two is compression. The solution 3 is combined file input format. There is something called combined file input format. What is the combined file input format? Look at guys here. This is the source code of your combined file input format. Look at what the Mapreduce is telling about the combined file. It's very pretty simple. An abstract input format returns the combined input split in a method. The splits are constructed from the file under the input path. A split cannot have a files from the different pools. Each split return may contain the blocks from the different files. If the maximum split is specified, then the blocks on the same node are combined from the single split. Blocks that are left over the combined with the other blocks in the same rack. The maximum split size is not specified, then the blocks from the same rack are combined in a single split. No attempt is made to create a non-local splits. If the maximum split is equal to the block size, then the class is similar to default splitting behavior in Hadoop. Each block is locally processed split. Okay, so pretty simple here. So you have to specify your block sizes. Not block size, input split size. What is my maximum input split size? What is my minimum input split size? You have to specify. Once you specify your split size, what will happen? Whenever you are giving your small files, all the files has to be in a single directory. You will be giving input as a single directory. You will give that input as a single directory. When you give input as a single directory, what will happen? It will first look for the maximum split. So out of these files, how can I create a maximum split? So how many files will comes under one maximum split size? How many files will come under one split? Those many files will be processed by one mapper. It will prepare this input split. How many files will comes under that split? Those many files will be processed by single mapper. You can look at here, rack nodes and set maximum split sizes, set minimum split size for node. You can go through this. Okay, I think you guys don't have this, right? So I have a document which I have prepared for combined file input format that is there in the drive. You guys can easily look into that. So this is the guy who plays the main role here, who is getting the maximum split and minimum split, and how it is getting processed. The get split method is the guy who is mainly playing a good role here to get all the files into single split and processed by single mapper. Okay, get more splits. It has some set of methods. It's pretty simple how it works. I'll tell you. It will consider, instead of explaining from there, if you feel not comfortable, let's try to understand here. This all files should be in a single folder. After putting into all files into single folder, and you will give this folder path as a input to your mapper. So let's say my maximum split size is max split size is 128 MB. My minimum split size is 1 MB. Okay, now what will happen? Let's say your block, all the number of files, all clubbing, after clubbing, the size of this is let's take 266 MB. Let's assume that it is a 266 MB. Now what will happen? If it is a 266 MB, first it will try to create a maximum split from this file. that is 128 MB. It means 128 MB will be processed by mapper 1, another 128 MB will be processed by another mapper, rest of the 10 MB will be processed by another mapper. Maximum split size here, it will be after clubbing all, it will create a split input splits based on the maximum input split size. So how many files will comes under this maximum split? 128 MB. Those many files will be processed by single mapper, and the next 128 MB, how many files will come? Those many split files will be split and processed, and the rest of the files will go into small as a 10 MB, and it will be processed by another mapper. So you have a 266 MB as a file size. The 266 MB file has been processing by 3 mappers. Clear, guys? Is this clear?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this is about these input formats, and tomorrow we'll talk about um, multi-input file format and DB input format. DB input format nothing to do with it. And tomorrow the main important thing is what we will talk about, the whole input file format. If you see whole file input format, do you see anything here saying that whole input file format? Do you see anything as a whole file input format? There is no whole input file format. There is no whole input file format. We will write a whole input file format. So it's a concept. It is not an existing file input format class. It is just a concept. We will talk about that tomorrow. We will see more details about the rest of the input file formats, and yeah, so after that we will move to output file formats. So similarly, whatever you have seen the input file format, similarly we'll be having output file formats as well for each and everything. Okay. Yep. Thank you guys. Thanks for your time. Have a great day and great evening for who are in the other time zone.